you very much. Sorry for this interruption. And I just very briefly, before we give the floor to UNIDO, would like to tell you a few facts about the Partnership for Computing Equipment. The e-waste issue, as I have mentioned, is a priority under the Basel Convention already since 2002. And in 2006, the parties to the Basel Convention, when they met in Nairobi, adopted the Nairobi Declaration on the environmentally sound management of e-waste, which focused on the theme of creating innovative solutions for the environmentally sound management of electronic waste. So since then, the parties to the Basel Conventions, which is by now, let me see, 181, I think, or 82, sorry for that, I have to check. And so nearly all countries in the world are since then focusing, in fact, on the e-waste and see that solving the e-waste problem is one priority on the global level. In 2008, the parties to the Basel Convention have established a partnership for action on computing equipment. And this is an international partnership on multi-stakeholder basis with governments, with manufacturers, recyclers, international organizations, academia, and environmental non-NGOs. The partnership aim is to assist developing countries and countries with economies in transition for the environmentally sound management of used and end-of-life computing equipment. And to do so, the partnership has developed tools and guidelines, is running a number of pilot projects to test these guidelines and raises awareness and training programs. And by the way, one of these outreach activities to bring together stakeholders who have knowledge about e-waste is a series of webinars, and our webinar today is part of that. The key points what PACE has developed is the guidance document on environmentally sound management of used and end-of-life computing equipment, which consists of separate chapters, and there are specialized guidelines behind it. One on the environmentally sound testing, refurbishment and repair of used computing equipment, and another one on guidelines on environmentally sound material recovery and recycling of end-of-life computing equipment. Now, the importance is that the guidelines developed by the parties and adopted by the parties, developed together with the stakeholders, are in fact used on the ground. And to do so, we have several mechanisms. Under the Basel Convention, there are 14 Basel Convention regional centers around the world, which raise awareness in the regions. They disseminate the guidelines, strengthen the policy dialogue, and provide expertise on the environmentally sound management of e-waste. As mentioned, the partnership has run and is still running a number of small pilot activities to trigger the discussion on e-waste and to develop some experiences in different regions. You see here in all regions of the world: Burkina Faso, El Salvador, Jordan, Moldova, Serbia, South Africa, and Suriname. And but most important are national and regional e-waste projects that are supported by bilateral and multilateral donors. And in this context, now I would like to hand over to UNIDO. One of these multilateral donors is the JEF, but the project from UNIDO, but we will hear more now in detail from UNIDO colleagues directly, This is a joint supported project, and the JEF implementing and executing agencies are actually taking the international discussion to the regional and in particular national level, so that these issues can be then tackled and practically implemented on the ground. So here, and I understand in the end you will get these presentations electronically. You'll here find the web link to the partnership if you wish to get more information about that. But I don't want to waste time now in this webinar, because here we want to hear specifically about the UNIDO program in Latin America. And I hand over to UNIDO. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, good morning to everybody, depending on the time zone, but it's good morning here in Vienna. I am glad to share with you UNIDO experience in our e-waste management program. First of all, I will introduce UNIDO briefly. Last year, member states of UNIDO selected a new Director General, Mr. Li Yong from China, and the first thing he discussed was how we can foster the mandate of UNIDO. And the focus of the new mandate of UNIDO will be inclusive and sustainable industrial development. And this was adopted in the last General Conference that was held in Lima, Peru, in December 2013. Basically, what we call now ISID, Inclusive and Sustainable Industrial Development, it aims at industrial development which is sustainable. And in other words, we need to bring in fair economic growth to all countries. We need also to have an equitably distributed within societies. And of course, we want to do it through green industries that will safeguard the environment, and we need to promote sustainable development. And of course, this is linked to how we can sell the concept in the global markets, and also how we can develop partnerships for knowledge exchange and technology transfer. And of course, the ultimate aim or objective of the UN system is to eradicate poverty. I think this is also discussed under the new Sustainable Development Goals, SDG goals, that will replace the Millennium Development Goals. Now, how we can link e-waste to this program? UNIDO developed what we call the Green Industry Initiative in 2008, and then this initiative promotes industrial production and development that doesn't come at the expense of the health of natural systems or lead to adverse human health outcomes. Basically, we would like to promote decoupling economic growth from consumption of natural resources. And this can be achieved. Some countries have done it in developed countries, and we would like to see how we can make it a practice in developing countries also. It means that we can have industrial development and still reduce the consumption of natural resources. How we can do more with less resources. And UNIDO is involved on e-waste management. We started our first program in 2008 when we have a partnership with Microsoft, and at that time it was in Uganda in Africa. And the main objective of that project was how we can promote the use of ICT equipment in African context. Of course, we worked with Microsoft. We have supported the shipping of verified and second-hand equipment to Uganda. And when we started the program, at that time, we were thinking how we can close the loop of these used computers once they are reaching their end of life. And then we were thinking with Microsoft since 2008, how we can build up closing the loop systems in Africa. Knowing the context in Africa that recycling industries are suffering a lot of challenges, and e-waste is, we don't have yet an e-waste recycling industry in Africa, At that time, we wanted to make sure that all the equipment that are shipped in Africa as second-hand equipment are reshipped to developed countries for proper recycling. And then we started our e-waste management programs as part of the green industries of because the mandate of UNIDO is we would like to promote sustainable recycling industries. Before giving you the details of our program, how we started this program and how it evolved in Africa and then how we extend it to other regions, I would like to share with you some information. And this information you can see from the beginning that the source of our information is mentioned here. Facts and figures on e-waste and recycling. And if we take year 2011, you will see that the equipment that were sold worldwide, we have more than 353 million units of computers, 248 million of TV sets, and you can see 1.6 billion mobile phones in the world. It means that in some years, in the lifespan of this equipment, all this equipment will become a waste. And if we see the amount of e-waste generated globally, you can see that we have nearly 41.5 million tons in 2011, and this amount increased to 49 million tons in 2012. It means because we have increasing production of e-products, we expect to get more and more e-waste generated globally. And we have some statistics that show that the global demand for major household appliances to grow in average 3.8% per year to 2017. And we will reach more than 430 million units, mostly in developing countries. Because these countries, we are getting the middle class, we are getting economic growth, and this is accompanied by households that have access to more electric and electronic appliances. We have also an expectation of an increase of e-waste production. It's what is expected from 1995 to 2020, we'll have more than 45% increase in e-waste generation. And in 2030, developing countries will discard what is estimated between the range from 400 to 700 million obsolete PCs per year. And compared to developed countries, we have an estimate between 200 to 300 million in developed countries, which means that by 2030, developing countries will generate more e-waste than developed countries they are doing now. We have also the concept of urban mining, and this concept, it was discussed many years ago. It's not a new concept, because we know that from 1 million cell phones, they can yield about 24 kilograms of gold, and more than 250 kilograms of silver, and 9 kilograms of palladium, and over 9,000 kilograms of copper. Of course, e-waste is a source of these precious metals, but also we have hazardous substances, including the POPs, the new POPs, cadmium, lead, mercury, chrome, and etc. And where we have the problematic fractions when it comes to e-waste is mainly with CRTs, cathode ray tubes, the flat screens with the mercury. We have also batteries. We have also CFCs in refrigeration systems, and also we have mercury in lamps. So this is basically data that can be checked in different sources about e-products and e-waste globally. And of course, e-waste is one of the fastest growing waste streams in the world. That's why it is becoming important to find solutions, even though we have already hotspots in some countries, and we would like to avoid having the same hotspots, like, for example, what is going on in Africa, in Nigeria and Ghana. We need to work together because the problem is huge to be tackled by a single organization. Here we have statistics about 2012, about e-waste generation. As I said previously, we have almost 49 million tons, and you can see the distribution among countries. We have, of course, in terms of production currently, it's mainly in developed countries, but you can see also that now South Africa is becoming also a source of e-waste for neighboring countries, if we focus on Africa context. So here I have picked up what are the current practices in developing countries. And the source of these pictures are IMPA. IMPA is the Federal Laboratory on Material Sciences in Switzerland. They are involved in doing inventories and also implementing e-waste management projects since many years. And UNIDO works together with IMPA and other partners in the e-waste, solving the e-waste problem, STEP initiative. And here I just picked up some pictures from IMPA about practices that are unfortunately they are becoming common practices in the informal sector. You can see how we are trying bleaching the printed wire boards to recover precious metals here in different contexts. We have also how we are using some acids to get, and we are causing toxic fumes for the workers. And also you can see that e-waste in informal sector involves also the child labor. And of course, these practices should not be promoted. We need to work how we can avoid these current practices in developing countries. We have here some pictures from Asia, but it's the case also in Africa and Latin America. In some countries, not all of the countries, but in some countries, it's really a practice that should be, we have to work against these practices. In the specific case of Latin America, we have also the situation of the informal dismantling with high impact to health and the environment. And you can see some pictures here. You can see how we are tackling the CRTs. Because CRTs, they have low cost, we have lead glass, and currently we cannot get money or income from the CRT. And of course, we have informal and unsafe collection. You can see the storage area here is not covered. You can see that people are getting rid of this unvaluable fractions of the e-waste. Basically, we have informal sector involved, and they are exposing themselves to health problems, and we are also increasing the impact on the environment. We have also the source from IMPA in Latin America. So basically, when we are talking about e-waste or e-scrap, it's really a complex mix. If we take the example of a mobile phone, for example, we get this information from Nokia, former Nokia, because now it should become Microsoft, I guess. If we take a mobile phone, you can see that the table of Mendeleev, all these chemicals are present in a mobile phone. Of course, in different concentrations. You can see that we have, for precious metals, we would like to recover palladium, silver, platinum, and gold. But also we have some problematic fractions when it comes to bromide and others. And it's really a mix of this, and the difficulty that we need to avoid environmental and health risks for the workers and for the environment. And for a landfilling is not a proper solution for these equipment. And the second question, how we can recover these valuable resources, precious metals, without having a negative impact on the environment and without exposing the workers to the health problems. Here we have an incentive. Why we have to be, and even the private sector should be interested in tackling this e-waste problem. Here we have figures that the source is also IMPA. Here we have what is the potential of human mining in e-waste. If we take the normal primary ore for the mining, if we got 1 ton of the ore, primary ore of gold, we are recovering 9 grams per ton. And we are also recovering 5 grams per ton of the ore. You can see the numbers for platinum. We are getting 3 grams per ton, gallium 100 grams per ton, and then lithium we are getting 7,000 to 20,000 grams per ton. If we compare it to the printed wire boards, first we start with the whole device, for example a computer or all electrics. In average, we are getting 280 grams per ton of a device, of gold from a device, 73 of palladium and 3 platinum, 23 grams per ton of gallium, and 10,000 to 20,000 grams of lithium from a device. If we go further and then we focus only on the printed wire boards, which concentrates the most of these precious metals, we are even getting higher yields. You can see that we can recover up to 1,400 grams of gold per 1 ton of printed wire boards. And this is the risk, because some people, if they want to make benefits, they will only focus on the printed wire boards. But this is dangerous because we are focusing on where we have income and we are not tackling the problem of the whole devices. And in the whole device, we have fractions. We don't recover precious metals, but we have only hazardous fractions, and we need to avoid cherry picking, what we call cherry picking. This is very important, but these elements are very important if we need to build up business models for recycling facilities. And this is what we would like also to present during this presentation. So what are the key challenges for a holistic e-waste management? First of all, we can see that there are a wide variety of perspectives in tackling this e-waste management. We have the issue of resource recovery. We have also the issue of public health, environment, occupational health and safety. We have also eco-design to avoid the presence of hazardous substances in the e-products. We have also the issue how we can implement the extended producer responsibility and what are the responsibilities of the producers in general, including the OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers, and also the distributors and retailers. We have also the issue of awareness raising, the standards, which are becoming very important, and of course we need research and innovation, regulations and their enforcement, they should come together. And of course, we need also to have knowledge management sharing of the knowledge and certification, etc. So all these topics are very important if you would like to tackle in a holistic approach e-waste management. We have also large numbers and varied affiliations of stakeholders. Of course, we start with government. We have also the private sector in general, informal sector, NGOs, international governmental organizations, corporate social organizations, research organizations, and individuals as consumers. Because the issue of e-waste, it has to do with sustainable consumption and production. They should go together. And of course, we have a varied global perspective. There is no specific convention on e-waste, but e-waste is linked to the Basel Convention, to the Stockholm Convention, and it is an emerging issue in the cycling process. It's also tackled by several international organizations. We have ITU, ILO, WHO, Montreal Protocol, UNEP, and others. Several UN organizations and international organizations are involved somehow in the e-waste, how we can solve the e-waste problem. And of course, this is a recurrent question about lack of standardized definitions on electrical and electronic equipment or waste from electrical and electronic equipment or e-waste. Because sometimes there are differences in the interpretation of the Basel Convention directives and how they are transposed in national regulation. And I think there is a need of standardized definitions because this will impact the implementation of the Basel Convention provisions when it comes to the transborder movement of hazardous waste. So, to continue with the challenges for holistic e-waste management, we have also divergent views on WEEE. Are we talking about municipal waste? Because in some countries they are collected as municipal waste, or special waste, or hazardous waste, or POX waste, or maybe it's different. So this divergent views on WEEE will impact the systems put in place to tackle this e-waste or to handle it properly. The next issue is we have shorter and shorter useful life of electrical and electronic equipment because we are getting new technologies, we are getting new brands, and there is current consumer behavior that they want to get the latest products. And this, of course, contributes to increase the e-waste generation in developing and developed countries. The next issue is about the new bans on e-waste management. Sometimes some countries are banning incineration, and then this will reduce or will push for landfilling, and we know that landfilling is not an option for handling hazardous waste, because at least in developing countries, landfilling is sometimes only about dump siting. It's dumping in a site, and this is not an engineered or sanitary landfilling. And of course, if we don't have incinerators and we don't have proper sanitary landfills, we need to see how we can export, according to Basel Convention, to countries that have these facilities for proper recycling. We have also some loopholes in the current regulatory system, and in principle, this is has to do with the near end of life equipment, because they are not yet considered as hazardous waste, because we can still use them. And this is what is going on in developing countries, in Africa, for example, where we are receiving large amounts of second-hand equipment. But we have to be very careful about the second-hand equipment, because sometimes these equipments are already reaching their end of life, and they are only dumped somehow in Africa. And we need to avoid these situations. Of course, we have also to think about the cost of reverse logistics. Once we have used either new equipment or used equipment in a developing country, and we don't have proper facilities for recycling, we need to ship them back to another country that has the facilities. And we have costs in these shipments. Shipping costs could be a barrier for some countries. And we will tackle this issue when we are talking about the business models of recycling facilities. And of course, in developing countries, we have a challenge because the involvement of the informal sector, and the focus is more on cherry picking to focus on traction that will get with some incomes for this informal sector. And we are throwing all the other fractions in the dump site. And these are about poor and illegal recycling practices in developing countries. And you can see that there are a lot of publications. Here we have singled out some sources of this information. If you want to get more details, you just Google this in publications, and you will get more information about the current practices or some bad practices in developing countries. Coming back to the POX issues related to electrical and electronic equipment and improper management, we have here the materials, and we have here singled out the POX that are present in WEEE, in e-products, let's put it that way. When it comes to PCBs, PCBs are present in the condensers and also some transformers of e-products. We have also the PBDEs. This is about the new POX. These chemicals or the substances are used as flame retardants in plastics for e-products. Some of them are also in circuit boards, in the housing and casing, especially for CRTs and office equipment. And we have this hexabromocyclodecane, HPCDs. There are also flame retardants used in insulation of cooling appliances. For example, in the rooms where we have servers, we need to have cooling appliances, and we are using this kind of substances. And all these substances are part of the POX or the new POX. And of course, they have adverse effects on humans and environment. And we have also some releases, atmospheric releases of dioxins and furans when we have uncontrolled incineration or burning of halogenated plastics in carcasses of e-products and PCBs, insulation of electrical cables. But of course, we will see it's also depending on the concentrations of these substances in WEEE. Because in printed circuit boards, in some countries, they are not considered as hazardous fractions. But in other countries, they are printed wire boards and considered to be as hazardous waste. And this comes again to the definition of WEEE and hazardous waste and how we have transposed it in the national regulation. Okay, just to give you examples of what we have just talked about, brominated flame retardants, you can see where they are, and mainly in the plastics, these plastics, to avoid the expansion of fire. We have also here the hexabromocyclodecane in the refrigeration, insulation and refrigeration systems, PCBs in the condensers, and of course dioxins and furans when we burn out all this waste. So we have worked, as I said, UNIDO joined the STEP initiative solving the e-waste problem in 2008. We got information. I mean, it was a very good platform to get good interaction with recyclers, academia, private sector, and other international organizations. We are also a member of FACE since last year. We have joined officially, even though that we have been already in touch with the Basel Convention Secretariat, with the SICEM Secretariat, because we are reporting our activities to these international conventions. We have also piloted some projects in Africa. We started with Uganda, as I mentioned. Then we have moved to Tanzania. And then we got the first GIF project, Global Environment Facility Funded project in Ethiopia. What is really important is that we need to put a sustainable e-waste management system in the country. I am focusing on the system because some countries would like only to focus on how they will get this technology and have dismantling facilities. If you want to achieve a pilot project, of course, you can do that, and then you will trial it, and then you will see how you can upscale this pilot project. But we have seen that in some countries, we have built up pilot recycling facilities, according to world-class recycling facilities, but we did not secure inputs to these facilities, and we didn't secure also how we can manage the downstream market of the fraction that would come out of these recycling facilities. That's why it is very important that we need to build up all these pillars in parallel. Policy and legislation is very important. If you would like to build up recycling industry, not only a pilot facility. We need also to explore how we can build up sustainable business models and financing, because in some countries we cannot only rely on government money. It's now becoming very limited. We cannot also rely on international cooperation. We need to build up sustainable business models of this e-waste management system in general, not only the recycling facilities. And of course, we need to decide, depending on the baseline, on also the context of each country, what would be the appropriate technology and skills that are required to efficiently run a recycling facility. Shall we do only the dismantling? Shall we go up to precious metals recovery? What to do with the hazardous fractions? Do we have appropriate facilities in the country, or do we need to ship them abroad? All these questions should be discussed on a country-specific basis. We need also to do the monitoring and the control, not only for the recycling facility, but also of the inputs in the market about the e-products, and then when they become e-waste, how they are collected, and monitor if the collection system is efficient or not. And of course, we need to do a lot of marketing and awareness raising. We can start in some countries as a pilot phase, but we know that the limitations of the pilot phase. The pilot phase will show us the direction to go forward, but we will not expect to have a greater impact with the pilot phase. We need to have implementation phases, and of course, the aim is to achieve long-term solutions. We need to have legislation on e-waste, including EPR, extended producer responsibility, etc. We need to have sustainable self-financing schemes put in place. We need to introduce e-waste management in academia and get the skills that will run the recycling or the collection of the dismantling facilities. And of course, we need to have also sustainable auditing systems in the country and the continuous awareness raising campaigns at the school level and also in the society in general. What we have done so far in practice in Ethiopia, we discussed with the government of Ethiopia. It took us more than 2 years to formulate a JEF project. Basically, from the beginning, we focused that the process should be owned and driven by the government of Ethiopia. The program should not be seen as a UNIDO program in the country, but it should be seen as Ethiopia e-waste management program facilitated by UNIDO and other international organizations. Because we know that UNIDO comparative advantage is only focusing on recycling facilities, for example, and to do the business models. When it comes to legislation and policies, we know that other UN agencies are better positioned to provide the support to the country. And I'm here thinking about UNEP, United Nations Environment Programs, where I'm also thinking about the Basel Convention Secretariat, the Stockholm Convention Secretariat, and other international organizations that are related to, focusing on regulation. Basically, we have seen that policy is very important. We need to put in place clear policies with clear definitions of e-waste, clear definition how we can implement and expand producer responsibility. What do we mean by the producer in a developing country? Do we focus only on the OEMs? What will be the role of the distributors, etc.? And also tackling the issue of the informal sector. Informal sector is a reality in developing countries. We need to work together how we can move this informal sector to a formal one. Once we have the policies, we need also to think about what to do inventories here. Because the inventory will give us a clear picture what is in the country as e-products. And then if we start a project, we start from here to do an inventory. Then we'll decide how we can tackle this issue in the country. We'll have what are the different e-waste streams. Shall we focus only on PCs? Shall we also include mobile phones, refrigerations, TV sets, etc.? Depending on the amount of these inventories in the country, we can start with the pilot. And basically, the first pilot waste stream we start with are mainly ICT equipment. It means PCs and etc. Then we have to think about collection systems in the country. We know that in developing countries, the informal sector is collecting everything that has a value. We need to make sure that this is done in following the best practices, and we can start with how we shall collect from households, customer to business, or also collection from business to business. And in most of developing countries, this is easy to put in place business to business. If the government drives the process, they can issue some kind of recommendation to all government institutions, ministries, departments, academia, etc., that all their e-products, when they reach the end of life, they should be collected in a proper manner. And this could be a starting point for any recycling facility in the country. And then, of course, we need to think how we can emphasize and strengthen the collection from customers. And here, of course, we need incentives. How we can bring consumers to bring them their old equipment or used equipment to collection points. Starting with Africa context, where the situation is the following, that we don't have any proper recycling facilities for e-waste, we should not aim at recovering precious metals at the beginning. First of all, because the volumes are not enough to justify the investment on such kind of facilities, and we know for the precious metals recovery, we need investments about millions of euros. And we know that in most of developing countries, we have other priorities and we cannot afford to invest because of the volumes and also because of the cost. So we need to start with, once we secure the collection system, this is really a must, we need to think about manual dismantling facilities. And these facilities will collect when they will get the inputs that were collected, and this kind of equipment will get ICT, consumer electronics, refrigerations, washing machines, etc. And we have to do, of course, sorting and then manual dismantling, and we'll get output fractions. And unfortunately, we will have to deal with hazardous fractions and non-hazardous ones. For example, metals and non-contaminated plastics and precious metals that could be recovered from printed wiring boards. These fractions, we can expect income, and these do have the value. But this comes with CRTs and contaminated plastics, when you need to pay for their recycling, proper recycling in other facilities in other countries. So the basic idea of the business model, how we can balance between the fraction that will bring income and the fraction that will cost money for the treatment. And these are the elements that will be discussed when we are thinking about the business models of these facilities. And of course, we need how we can finance the whole system, because the system should include collection also. And here we need to think about incentives for consumers. What kind of incentives that will motivate consumers to bring in their equipment to the right collection points. So this is basically what we wanted to promote in African context we started with. We are getting lessons learned from Ethiopia, and we would like also to adapt and adopt this model to other regions, for example, Latin America. In working in this program, we are very glad to announce that we have worked with several partners. We have exchanged information within the UN system first. We have shared information in some countries with UNDP at the national level, with UNEP, with also the Global Environment Facility, and with United Nations University. And we are talking about UNEP, and we are working with UNEP IATC in Japan. We are also UNEP Nairobi, UNEP Paris, that we are sharing information with these UN system organizations. Of course, GEF is very important because so far we can also prepare projects, because UNIDO is an implementing agency of the GEF, Global Environment Facility, and we can submit proposals related to e-waste management. This is what we have done for Ethiopia case. We are also working with the convention, the Basel Convention, the Stockholm Convention mainly. We have worked with NGOs, like for example, Blacksmith Institute. We have projects for hazardous waste management in general with Blacksmith Institute, and also with World Loop, based in Brussels. And of course, we are a member of these platforms. The Global Partnership on Waste Management, which was founded by UNEP, IATC, ESWA, International Surveillance Association, and UNIDO. We are also a member of the STEP initiative, Solving the E-Waste Problem Initiative, a member of PACE, and we are working closely with ESWA, International Solid Waste Association, as they are based in Vienna, which is also the headquarters of UNIDO, and we are also reporting under SAICEM mechanism. And we are working with colleagues from SAICEM on emerging issues, and e-waste is one of them. And of course, we have also working relationship with the business, the private sector. Microsoft was involved in Uganda. Dell is working closely with UNIDO in Ethiopia and other countries, and in Latin America in the future. And Samsung was involved in Cambodia project, where UNIDO is implementing an e-waste management program there. So as I mentioned, we have a current portfolio. We started with Africa, Uganda, as I mentioned, and this project was funded by Austria Development Cooperation Agency of Austria. The project we started with an establishment, the objective of the project is to establish a manual dismantling facility for WEEE. We have completed the phase 1, and we have promoted the e-waste regulation in Uganda. We have worked together with UNDP that they will tackle the issue of e-waste in terms of awareness raising in Uganda, and UNIDO will focus in the second phase on the establishment of this manual dismantling facility. In Tanzania, we have worked with other UN agencies under the One UN program on e-waste management, and in Tanzania we have succeeded to build up a joint venture between a former informal collector who has established their own company and licensed by the government of Tanzania to be a collector. So we have succeeded to build up a joint venture between this collector and a plastic recycling company that was licensed for the recycling of plastics, recycling of copper, and they wanted to upgrade their operations to do the manual dismantling of e-waste and then segregate the fractions and then ship the hazardous fractions to abroad. And we have worked closely with World Loop, and we have succeeded to build up this joint venture. There was an environmental impact assessment of this new activity, and this joint venture is getting now the license to operate, to collect, and to dismantle the e-waste. And there is now a first trial of shipping these sorted or fractions to Europe with the support of World Loop, and Ubicore has accepted to give the incentives to trial this first shipment from Tanzania to Belgium. And of course, this was done in line with the Basel Conventions, with all the notifications that were required, and now the shipment is due to arrive in Belgium in 2 weeks' time. And World Loop also provided the support to do the incomes sheet. It means that we have, based on the content of the shipment, and also the quality of this shipment in terms of printed wire boards, CRTs, etc., we are now able to get what is the expected income from this shipment, how we can recover the shipment cost, and still we expect to get positive income to the recycler in Tanzania. It was an important case study that we have demonstrated, and of course we need to be very careful because we don't want to have only shipments on printed wire boards that have higher value and then we disregard the other fractions. And UNIDO was very clear, we need to avoid cherry picking and make sure that we are tackling all the fractions in a balanced way. It means the incomes generated from some fractions need to be used to recover the cost of the negative or the hazardous fractions. We have an e-waste management project in Ethiopia, and in Ethiopia this is the first JEF project. The government provided the co-financing in terms of building up the facility, it means the civil engineering work, and then UNIDO worked with the government. We have created a steering committee in the country chaired by Ministry of Environment and Ministry of ICT, and then we have also several stakeholders. This platform is very important because we need the ownership to be done by the country itself. And before talking about recycling equipment, we focused on the regulation. with the Ministry of Environment. And then we started with the downstream markets. What is the national local market in Ethiopia for non-hazardous fractions, and how we can tackle the hazardous fractions abroad. So we have done a detailed study on this downstream market. Then we went to do the collection system, how we can implement an efficient collection system in the country. And then we came back to the recycling facility, which kind of equipment are required to start operations. What is important here in the recycling facility is really the focus on the 3 R's. We need to promote reduction first, and then reuse is very important. And then at the next level should be recycling. And in general, reuse and recycling should come together to secure a proper business model for the recycling facility. And in Cambodia, we have a project with the environment of Samsung, and the objective of that program is really to create green jobs. And this is in line with ILO, which promotes this program. And we have tried to do it with an effective e-waste management in the country. And this is the first time where we have a cooperation between UNIDO and Samsung, and we would like to extend this cooperation to other developing countries in Asia. And in the pipeline, we have the first largest project on e-waste in Latin America. UNIDO developed first contacted countries in Latin America, and this process is very important from the beginning. We need to make it very clear that the project should be drafted together, project document, to agree what is really what is the baseline in these countries, in this region, and then develop with the focal points in each country and the existing platforms in the region, a strong project document. And we are talking here about a large project, and we have more details. The second one that is under formulation is in the SADC region in Africa, the Southern African region. And the next one will be in West Africa, in these developed countries in ECOWAS. This is, we are talking about here, this is the hard pipeline in Latin America, and this pipeline is coming in 2015 and 2016. And in these cases, we are targeting the Global Environment Facility, the GEF funding. So basically, I'm coming to the last slide about the national initiative and enhancement of regional cooperation for the developing sound management of POPs in WEEE in Latin America countries. We have 13 participating countries. Before starting giving details, my colleague Alfredo Suevas, who is with us also attending the seminar, is the project manager. We have a team here in UNIDO. Personally, I'm focusing on Africa context. My colleague Alfredo is taking care of the Latin America, and we have another colleague who is taking care of Asia. And we have also a team of consultants that are working with us. It means we have a teamwork here, because we are getting requests from countries, and we need to be very clear about the priorities and also how we can achieve the GEF requirements in order to be eligible to get in GEF funding. And this is very important, and it's a very time-consuming process to work with the countries. If it's one country, it takes all this time, but if you want to work with 13 participating countries, you can imagine the need of coordination with these countries. So basically, we have 13 participating countries in this regional project. We have the names here of the countries. Of course, they have different baselines. The project development process, it's the estimated grants of the GEF grant is $9.5 million US, and we have secured or expect to secure more than 35 million co-financing. The PIF, the project information form, was approved in February 2014, and it is included in the GEF 5 window work plan. And in this project, we have 2 phases. The phase 1, which is the project preparation grant phase, where we have funding coming from GEF to have a detailed project document, because the approval was done in the basis of the PIF, which is a concept note, And we need to work with afterwards to work with the partners in the region to develop a strong project document. And we had the team, UNIDO team and Alfredo team held a workshop in Panama to discuss final draft project document. And of course, further discussion with regional centers and key potential partners. In this regard also, we made very clear that UNIDO to work closely with other active partners in the region, mainly the Basel regional centers, the Stockholm focal points, the POPs focal points in the countries, and the existing platforms in Latin America. So this month we have reviewed the country budgets, the log frames based on the outcomes of this meeting in Panama that was held in December. And now we have getting new timelines for this project. And we expect to get the letters of financing to secure this 35 million to UNIDO in February. And we expect to get the Jeff CEO final endorsement during July-November time period. And of course, we need to start implementation. If all these timelines are met, we expect to start effective implementation by late 2015 and early 2016. And of course, the approach is, as I said, the bottom-up development approach. We started from national realities, needs assessment, and then and how we can move to regional cooperation. And another component which is very important in this approach is the knowledge management information system. We need to have a systematic approach to identifying, collecting, managing, and sharing information and knowledge among the participating countries. And also other countries in the region are in advanced stage, like Brazil, for instance. Of course, we have this regional approach. Of course, we have the pros and cons, again, for these regional approaches. Because at the same time, we need to achieve or meet national needs, but at the same time, to build regional approaches in terms of strengthening the knowledge management system and regional information exchange, and also to enhance the South-South cooperation. And this is really a challenge because in Latin America, we have different baselines in these countries, and it's important to make sure that we are meeting the needs of each country, every country, and also how an advanced country can provide a support to a neighboring, less advanced country. And the main project components. First, we need to strengthen national e-waste management initiatives in terms of national policies, national capacity for e-waste management, and national society informed and aware of e-waste issues. This is very important in each country, in every country. Second output of the program will be strengthening national capacities on waste dismantling and recycling facilities infrastructure. And of course, we need to work with existing facilities to upgrade their operations or to facilitate the establishment of new e-waste dismantling and recycling facilities in participating countries. And of course, we need to think about the sustainability of these facilities. We don't want only to start a pilot and let it go alone. And we are very careful to make sure that this is a sustainable business and to bring in all the elements to make it a sustainable business. And the last point, which is enhancing regional cooperation on e-waste management in terms of e-waste policies that should be harmonized at the regional level, with due consideration to relevant environmental agreements and main mechanisms like recycling. Of course, the knowledge management system and information exchange and the South-South cooperation is enhanced through this program. This is the end of my presentation, and I'm sorry if I was late in presenting it, but we are open to discuss with you and also invite my colleague Alfredo to join in for answers to specific topics in Latin America. Thank you very much.